continue our preview of every team going to the World Cup. 32 in 32 days, and I haven't slept in a week. What? Today we begin Group C, and we start with the pot 1 team in Group C, which is Argentina. It rolled! Like a little bit, but it rolled. If you've enjoyed the series so far, please do subscribe. Or if you just dig the mustache, please do subscribe. We start these with how the team qualifies, and Argentina have one of the most impressive runs in qualification that history has ever seen. That is because Argentina did not lose a game in South American World Cup qualifying, which, as the illustrious historian that I am myself, I know that's only happened 2 times. Unlucky for Argentina is the other time that has happened was also this cycle. Brazil did it as well, so Argentina actually finished second despite their historic run. And if you're trying to figure out how that happened, well, then you're not as smart as you look, because they just tied each other. They actually only played once. The other Super Classico was canceled. Obviously, they didn't schedule it to replay it because, well, both teams qualified so freaking easily. Why risk injury and everything else? They're both already in first and second place. So maybe one of them wouldn't have gone unbeaten. They played one less match. It still counts. In 17 matches against some of the world's best teams, Argentina only gave up 8 goals. Tremendously impressive. In case you're wondering who their draws were against, it was Brazil, Paraguay twice, which is just interesting because Paraguay finished all the way down there. And their other draws were Chile, Colombia, and Ecuador, which are perfectly respectable draws against teams that honestly up until about the last match day had a chance to go to the World Cup. The point is, Argentina was never in danger, and that has been a common theme because Argentina makes basically every World Cup ever. That's not actually true, but they last missed the World Cup in 1970, and I wasn't alive, and you probably weren't either, at least according to these wonderful YouTube analytics. The odds on that are pretty good. Argentina has won 2 World Cups as well, which puts them in that very rare club of World Cup winners back in 1978 and 1986. 86 was Hand of God goal of the century, Maradona at his peak. You don't know what that is? Look it up. It's pretty interesting. But it's not just making it every time. Since 2002, Argentina has made the knockouts of the World Cup every time. And that blemish in 2002 was the first time that Argentina hadn't gotten out of the group stage after making it to the World Cup since 1962. It was a really bad spell for them in 58 and 62. They got knocked out in the group stage, and before that, they hadn't made the last 3 World Cups. But the last World Cup wasn't actually Argentina's best. They got out of the group, but it was uncomfortable. They got blown out by Croatia, for one. They had to settle for a draw against Iceland, a country with the same population size as Corpus Christi, Texas, which is a city you probably didn't know existed. But they had a reliable win against Nigeria that needed an 86th minute goal from Marco Rojo to actually get them out of the group stage, or else it would have been Nigeria in their place. They lost an absolute classic to France with a final score of 4-3, but fortunately for Argentina, recent results would indicate they're in for a better World Cup this time around. I'm not just talking about World Cup qualifying. If we look at their recent continental competition results, that's Copa America, a fabulously interesting tournament that they just seem to hold whenever they feel like it. And the last one was in 2021, and Argentina won their group with 10 points from 4 matches. And it's pretty easy to qualify for the knockouts. You just have to not finish last, and Bolivia took care of that. In the tournament itself, Argentina flattened future World Cup qualifier Ecuador in the quarterfinals, got through a stern, tough challenge from Colombia on penalties, and then beat Brazil in the final. You might have heard of them. Now, this was a huge deal for Argentina because despite all their footballing success and the existence of the footballing god himself, Lionel Messi, they hadn't won a trophy since 1993, including 4 runners-up finishes in Copa America, most recently in 2016, where they lost on penalties to Chile. Now, this time was different. Messi got his big, shiny international trophy. Argentina got international glory for the first time since I was born, and that giant monkey has been taken off the back of the key man for Argentina. We do a key player for every team, but it's almost not even worth it on a team like this. Lionel Messi, arguably the greatest player in the history of the sport. Now, Lionel Messi's been in an interesting situation over the last couple of years, but what you might not have noticed is that at PSG, he is starting to rebound and rebuild his form. Now, granted, the bar that he set while at Barcelona, when you just look at his stats, is absolutely ridiculous. You can also compound the fact that the pressure is off. He has delivered Argentina a major international trophy already, and he's come out and said that this is his last World Cup. So it's the energy of a last hurrah that will energize the team around him. He is unbelievably talented and is clearly proving he's still capable of reaching that level consistently, and he's playing without pressure when in past World Cups he's looked almost pale and crushed by the amount of pressure that an entire nation has put in him to single-handedly carry a team that is one step below the top level in the world to a World Cup title, which is freaking impossible. But without that pressure and with new energy and form, it might be. And obviously an increase in talent around him, because it's not just Lionel Messi that Argentina has to cater to. When we look at the formations that Argentina is going to play in recent competitive matches of importance, they've gone with a 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, and a 4-3-3, like we see here in the match against Brazil in World Cup qualifying. Now, in the Copa America final against Brazil, it was a 4-4-2, so Argentina just basically whipped out a who's who of common formations in the sport. But the goal here is to get the best not only out of Lionel Messi, but out of Lautaro Martinez, and maybe whatever's left of Angel Di Maria, because class is permanent. He could still provide a wonderful goal or moment or two. But Lautaro Martinez, while not Lionel Messi, is a player that can play at the very best level and is pure world class and has been lighting it up at Inter. Another big help is when you go up the spine, you see a goalkeeper that can actually be trusted. Emiliano Martinez, who is a Premier League starting goalkeeper, is better quality than Argentina has had at the back than previously. He was huge in that penalty shootout against Colombia in the Copa America. I won all the mind games. He plays with confidence, and he plays well. They have top-level midfielders through the middle, but the issue might be Christian Romero and Nicolas Otamendi at center back, who, while very good, don't match the world-class level that some other countries are able to bring to bear very late in the competition. As for the where is Messi game, when they go with the 4-4-2, he's playing striker on the right side, and they go in the 4-2-3-1. He's not false nining from the top from the striker position. He's playing behind as a true number 10, and in the 4-3-3, they stick him on the right wing, where you see him right here. But having the roster that can provide that amount of versatility, like this 4-2-3-1 that they used to abuse Italy in the Cup of Champions, where the European champion plays a South American champion. It's only the third time it's ever happened, but fun. We saw their best, but the back line wasn't tested as much as it might be in the group that Argentina's playing in, because they're going up against Poland, who's got Robert Lewandowski. They're also going up against Mexico, who's made like a million round of 16 appearances in a row, and Saudi Arabia, who for all intents and purposes we can forget about for the rest of this conversation. Now, Argentina is the huge favorite in this group. Poland bowed out early of the last World Cup and has generally struggled in major international tournaments since they hosted the Euros and got to the quarterfinals, but they have Robert Lewandowski, who is still, in my opinion, the second best marksman in the world behind Erling Haaland. And going up against a backline of Otamendi and Romero, the advantage is to Lewandowski, if he's in form. Now, Mexico, I happen to think, is actually receding. They're not quite as good as they used to be. They don't have the top level players in Europe that even the US has, evidenced by the fact the US has beaten Mexico and not lost to Mexico in like 6 matches or something. Tecatito Corona at Sevilla, basically the highest level they've got. Chucky Lozano's kicking around in Italy, but that's it. Argentina should be able to handle both them and Saudi Arabia very comfortably. I think one tricky match isn't enough to take them off the top of the group, and so Argentina should be winning Group C fairly easily, but it's only 3 matches and anything can happen. As for their chance to win the entire tournament, Argentina has every chance to win this World Cup. They have the best chance, in my opinion, that Argentina's ever had. They didn't lose in World Cup qualifying. They won Copa America. They actually have a goalkeeper, and they've got a player that can take the goal scoring load off of Lionel Messi if they need it, and one that's going to show up on the big stage in a way that the others haven't necessarily. No disrespect to Aguero, he did bag a good number of goals, but the recipe is there. The pieces are in place, at least in the starting 11, for Argentina to make a serious run at this World Cup. I don't put them in the top 3, but if I'm making a list of 6 teams that could win this World Cup, Argentina is on it. I mean, what do you make of a team that just doesn't lose? You go back through qualifying, you go back through the Copa America, you go back through their friendlies. Argentina doesn't lose. They don't even know what it feels like to put on that jersey and lose right now. That's it for Argentina. We will continue our daily uploads previewing every team in the World Cup. If you've missed the first 2 groups, the link to the playlist is right here. I highly recommend binging. What else do you have to do right now? Nothing.